April 15th. Do some checking here. It's about 3 weeks away, huh? Well, maybe the deadline's causing more stress because you're afraid you're going to owe taxes and you just can't afford to pay Uncle Sam. So what are your options? Can the IRS help? Ronnie Hicks is a tax attorney with the Tax Defense Network here on the morning show. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
You know, that is a reality for a lot of people these days. Oh my gosh, I owe the money. I don't have it. What do I do? You know, the worst thing you can do is employ what I call the Sopranos strategy and forget about it.
The IRS isn't going to forget about it. They are going to find ways to get their money. So being proactive is really the best choice you have.
Okay, so what's step number one? Is it simply going ahead and making sure that you file the return itself on time?
I'd say yes. Step number one is making sure that you file the return on time. And the reason being is that you're going to avoid a lot of penalties going into the future by doing so. Whether you can or cannot pay the tax at the time, it's really important that you file that return.
All right, so what happens if you don't enclose the check?
If you don't enclose the check, you go through a process within the IRS where they will send out delinquency notices to you showing that you do owe the amount of your tax. At some point in the future, usually 6 months to a year down the road, they're going to send you to what's called the collections department of the IRS, where they'll start to issue intent to levy notices and demands for money. If you ignore them at that point, which the Sopranos method, they are going to eventually levy your accounts. And when I say levy, it means coming after your money in your banks or your wages without your consent.
So you mean they can attach my bank account, they can attach my paycheck, even though I'm struggling to make ends meet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, the IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world, and they have the ability to come after your bank accounts, wages, and other assets you may have.
But given the economy, aren't they going to sit back and go, okay, you know, this person's got a fairly decent track record when it comes to paying taxes. Let's find out what's going on.
Well, let's talk about the economy for a minute. With all the economic bills, funding 2 wars, and the current stimulus package, the government's in a real need for funds. And the IRS really is the source of funds for our government to do what they're doing. They've actually been mandated now to collect about $6.50 for every dollar that's spent in collections actions.
Actually, I read an article in Fortune magazine this month, and they were talking about the fact that when it comes to funding this nation's business, I think 43% of the money does indeed come from income taxes. All right, let me backtrack. You said after you file and don't include the check, a couple of months down the road, you're going to start to get a delinquency notice. Best strategy when you get the first one, contact them and say, hey guys, can I work out a payment plan?
Well, the best strategy, definitely contact, I think, is the best strategy. But if you don't feel confident, depending on the amount of money or funds that you owe, I mean, because individuals as well as businesses have these issues. So the amount of money owed could go anywhere from $10,000 to $10 million. So depending on your comfort level, you may want to seek out professional help or a professional tax resolution firm like Tax Defense Network to help you, really to be there on your side.
Okay, but if you can't afford an attorney, if you can't afford to pay Uncle Sam, is it okay to talk to them by your lonesome and sit back and say, okay, guys, this is my reality. Can we maybe come up with a plan that's workable for me and workable for you, where over a period of years you'll get your money, and I know there's some interest applied to it?
Right. I think there is advantages, obviously, of doing it on your own, which the major one is you're not having to pay the cost of professional help. But there are disadvantages. The IRS's main goal is to collect, and they're going to do so as efficiently as they can. There are programs out there to help you, but typically a collections agent isn't going to let you know about those. All
right. I would hope that you'd say they'd be more forgiving in this economy, but like you said, they've got their business to run too. Some good advice there. And the bottom line is, when it comes to the IRS, don't ignore them when they send you that notice. Thanks much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thinking about retiring this year, a new study shows about how much money you should have saved. We're going to